Welcome to the Confident Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Johnson. If you find yourself here, it may mean that you're looking for courage, clarity, or confidence in some part of your life. I interview experts in business and life each week and share strategies for success, motivation, and mindset. If you want to learn more about how I can help you grow your business as an extension of yourself and help transform you into a confident entrepreneur, check out my online business courses on my website at jenniferannjohnson.com. Now let's get started. Today, we welcome back into the studio, Sue Ryan. She is a dear, dear friend of mine. And for the past 40 years, she has been helping individuals from entrepreneurs to Fortune 100 companies to C-suite leaders and over 700 organizations of all sizes and multitudes of industries navigate transitions in their business. And she's a rock star. She simply is a rock star.
Well,
So
I don't know
welcome.
if Ozzy Osbourne would agree with that.
Well,
There you go.
you're phenomenal.
Thank you.
And
I'll go with rock star.
yeah, just go with the rock
There you go.
star. Claim it, own it.
I'm going to claim it.
Today, I want to talk with you about habits.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and not just any habits, but habits that we can find for ourselves to create a better business environment for ourselves, to create just a better life.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
And do you have any thoughts on what successful habits of, or how should I phrase this? Habits of successful entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Do they all have something in common?
No.
Wow. Yes. No. Thank you, ma'am.
I'm going to disrupt your
I love it.
podcast.
Please
Yes.
disrupt it.
I could talk about specificity of they get up at 5 a.m, they make a list, they have put the priorities, they have all these different things. And yet that to me is an endpoint. I talk about cause and effect. When you are in alignment with what's most important and you create the habits that work for you, you create your own and you live with them and you live from them and they fit you and they're very efficient. If I try to copy your habits, that does not mean it's the right habit. So my thing is you want to understand yourself in a meaningful way and you want to get back to what is important for you in your life and how are you going to know how to create the habits that work and support you, because otherwise you'll be striving to be like someone else. You'll hold yourself in judgment. You can't be fully present. You can't be in alignment. You're not making the wisest choice.
You're chasing.
You're chasing somebody else, not yourself. My one tip for today, a big, huge thing, and I've got something I put together on it. I am incredibly passionate about this because I lived in the absence of it. And I strove and strove and strove, and I did all the mechanical things and until I learned what this is. When we are very, very young, our personalities are forming. And the beliefs that we have, the truth that serves us when we're very young is being formed in us. And some of it comes from our genetics. Some of it comes from our early childhood environment. Some of it comes from our family environment. And we develop these beliefs. And as our little personalities are forming, these beliefs get established. And then throughout our younger years, we're developing new beliefs and they become automatic patterns running us. So by the time we're like in our early 30s, over 90% of who we are a set of automatic patterns running us. And we're not aware of them because unlike when you go to you get a life insurance policy, you get a car insurance policy, you get a condo policy or home policy. And 6 months ahead of time, they say, hey, your policy is going to renew. Has anything changed in your life? We're not normally encouraged to evaluate what we believe to be truth. And the analogy I use is when I was 7 years old, I wore pants that were a certain size. Well, they don't fit me anymore. So why would I think that the beliefs that were in my life would necessarily believe me? So when I talk about creating habits, I go back to the source. What is it I believe is the truth for me? And this is raising it to our level of awareness. So the first thing that we do is we start becoming aware. What is it that we believe? What is it that we believe to be true? Why do we believe that to be true? Now, some of those are really great. A quick example that I use is when we were very young, we were taught, look both ways before you cross the street. And that was to keep us, it was from a place of love to keep us safe. And now, thank goodness I learned that, because now I automatically look both ways before I cross the street, or I would be as flat as a pancake. So just as powerfully as those that are valuable, some of those, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough. And when we're very young, we haven't learned discernment yet. So when somebody says, you're a bad person or you're no good, we believe that to be true, especially when it comes from a person of authority. And then we don't have this thing that goes, in first grade, they don't say, okay, now let's look at anything you believe. And when we get to sixth grade, okay, let's look at our beliefs. So I'm big on evaluating beliefs, and I'll walk through that if you'd like.
I mean, I think it's great and it's not something that we're not even as individuals aware of this, right? Like you said, we are on pretty much autopilot. It's like breathing. We don't have to think about it. We just go about our daily business doing what we do because that's what we've always done, until something breaks down and we have to go, whoa, wait a second. What's happening?
This is one of the things. I work so much with people navigating transitions. And if you're going to a new space with old habits that are patterns that are running you, how can you be the best version of yourself? My passion in life is people continuously become the best version of themselves. And so you go back and you start it's so simple. You start raising to your level of awareness. What do I believe to be true? Why do I believe that to be true? What do I choose to believe to be true? And then you start creating new habits based on what that is. So you start believing that is what's true. Then you start programming yourself for that. You practice it over and over and over again. That becomes an unconscious pattern of behavior. And now that you keep checking in on things. And then you get an accountability partner or multiple ones in different areas of your lives, in areas that you're not aware of, and they can help raise your level of awareness, which also helps them do the same thing.
And that's great advice. But now, how do we know that we need to do this? I don't know, gut check or this check? Like, how do we know that we need to do it, and how often do we need to do it?
Excellent question. You can do it as often as you choose to do it. The number one thing you want to be doing is becoming aware. The first level of this is consciousness and awareness. So it is becoming really aware of what you're doing. And one of the things, for example, I caught myself the other day. Somebody suggested something, and they said, you ought to pick up pickleball. It's a great way to meet people. And I was like, I've got a lot of things going on in my life. And I stopped. And I said, whoa, that is an unconscious pattern of behavior, is that I'm too busy to pick up something new. And I said, I choose to stop and intentionally explore that. So like we had spoken about in the other podcast, sometimes we become aware of it through somebody else who's an accountability partner, somebody else who can see in us what we can't see in ourselves. When we're intentional in our day, when you're looking at it and say, okay, I just brushed my teeth and I have no idea what I did. I just went through that conversation. I said this about something. So in all of these different areas, we start raising our level of awareness of it. I created a guide. I'll give you the link for it and people can go through it. It is gradually it's creating your level of expectation that you are going to evaluate things in your life and nothing is off limits. One of the other great ways of doing this, and I call it like the Wheel of Life Alignment, is, and they've got these exercises called Wheel of Life Balance, where you look at pies in your life and you give, this is health and fitness, this is spiritual, this is all of those things. You start looking at those and you start what do you think about money? What do you believe about money? And you ask yourself, like my beliefs about money came from the way my parents did or didn't teach me. And that's just what I believed. I didn't question that. I didn't go back and do it. And it's not like it's the absence of that. It's like, is that still the truth for me? That's something I learned many years ago. So you become unquenchably curious and ask yourself, what else is possible? And ask yourself, is this really true for me? And you can write those down on a piece of paper and you can carry them around with you and in so many different areas. And you create the level of expectations with other people around you, especially your friends, to ask the same thing.
Is your closet overflowing? Or your kids' closets are as well? Or maybe you just want to redecorate your house. If you're wondering what to do with all that stuff that you've accumulated, well, bring it all to True Fashionistas or even ship it to them for free. They will sell your unwanted items for you, take away all the hassle by doing all the work, and all you have to do is sit back and collect your money. You can reach out to them online at truefashionistas.com, come into the store, or check them out on Facebook or Instagram, and that's truefashionistas.com. All right, friends, we're back with Sue Ryan, and we are chatting today about habits of successful entrepreneurs. Now, I know that there was a part that you wanted to get to, so I definitely want to delve into that right now, because it's important information.
And some of the common habits that we were talking about, when you're creating a habit, and a habit is, and by the way, getting back to like the word habit, when I say a habit is, one of the things that we want to make sure we're doing is getting our own definition of words. So this is a huge thing. If we want to create a new habit, we want to become aware of what our other habits are. So start listing out what are your habits, and then identify how it's working for you, why you believe you have it. If you were to replace it with something, what would you replace it with? And just, like make it like a checklist. So like, this is a great habit.
It's becoming aware of them is the problem, because,
aware.
And I don't mean it in a problem wise, but that's the challenge, because we have to stop and be still enough to go, all right, I need to do this exercise. I really want to know what I'm doing.
Exactly. And some of it is, you don't even know that you're doing it. The interesting thing, when I get people doing these exercises, they're surprised at the number of things they do, and they're not even aware they do it. And some of it is they've gotten in the habit of going to Starbucks, and when they're doing that, going to Starbucks isn't really the end thing. They're checking this, they're doing that, they're at Starbucks while they're doing this, and it's a piece of something else. So part of it is becoming intentional in your life and raising to your level of awareness, and then asking yourself, what is it I choose to believe? Does this support or sabotage me? Where is this in what I am looking to accomplish? When you're working, so when we talk about things that we want to have as a habit, you say, okay, well, what does a habit mean for me? How does a habit serve me? So you want to get really, really clear on what kind of habit you want. Not even the specific habit like brushing your teeth every morning, but what do I want a habit to do for me? What is the purpose of a habit in my life? And if you have clarity on how it supports, not sabotages you, then you start looking at everything you're doing through the lens of, this is a habit and it's not working so well for me. And then you say, what does? Choose what works for you. And then you continue to reset your expectations. And so not everything becomes a habit. Sometimes it's an interim process that you're doing. I'm experimenting with this. A lot of people talk about losing weight, and they say, well, I'm going to get in the habit of doing this and the habit of doing this. And then they think that they have to do this and then start doing it for a long period of time. A habit for me could be that I'm going to, I don't do this, but I'll just give an example. A lot of people will drink a cup of coffee in the morning and they'll put creamer and things like that in, and they think, okay, I can never have that anymore. When you raise something to your level of awareness and you're at choice with it, it doesn't mean you have to create a new habit. It means you become aware of something you're doing and you're choosing, and you're saying, this morning, I really do feel like having a cup of coffee with that creamer. Tomorrow, no, I don't. And you're at choice. So it's not the necessarily having to have everything be a habit. And it's not that you have to replace a habit with a habit. You could replace it with a pathway. I'm choosing to do something different. I don't know what that habit's ultimately going to be because I'm not there yet. However, the pathway is going to be conscious actions I'm taking toward the outcome I choose to have. And what you're doing in the process for that, which is taking you to a new place, and you're discovering new things. And along the way, you may say, this is kind of working for me. I think I'm going to keep doing this. Or, no, I think I'm going to try something else. So again, a big part of what happens is that habits tend to be places where we have judgment. It's either good or bad. When we just accept, oh, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. And okay, I used to do this and this is what it is. I'm at choice. I can do this and always stay at choice.
I love that.
Thank you.
It works. And I like how you said, it basically is what you're doing serving you.
Mhm.
Is it doing anything for you? Maybe it's hindering you from something else.
And if it's a long held belief, like I'm not worthy.
Oh, those are the worst, right?
Those are the worst. And then you've created habits that support you not seeing yourself as worthy, not taking actions based on being worthy.
Mhm.
And and like if you were saying that, and I've had people where they come and they'll say, well, you'll ask them a question and they preface the answer with, well, I'm not really good at that, and I haven't done this, and I haven't done, and I'll say, stop.
I've done that.
I know you
heard
have.
me.
And I've told you to stop.
You have, but again, that it took somebody to tell me that to break me from it.
And you wrote a book about that.
Yes.
And yet what happened was, until you were able to break that, you didn't even know you were doing it.
And I honestly, if I don't know if I would have found it on my own.
So often we don't, because we can't see in ourselves. Right. Yeah, it's a habit. A habit is an unconscious pattern of behavior. And we get into those so often not even knowing whether they serve us or not. That's not the point of a habit. A habit is a thing.
Right.
It's not good or bad. It just is. It's the what we apply to it. And we say, well, it has to be either good or bad. When we have, and we're talking about entrepreneurs, and we're talking about female entrepreneurs. One of the greatest things you can do is when somebody is saying something and it doesn't serve them, and it's just this thing that they just keep saying, you say, stop.
Right there.
And
exactly.
Wake them up and say, if you didn't believe that to be true, what would you choose? What action would you choose? And
I've heard you say that before. And that's very powerful when you actually sit down and think about it.
It is.
If you didn't have that, negative word in your mind, what else would you choose to believe is true here?
What would you put there instead?
Exactly.
And how's that working? And again, I go back to this Dr. Phil saying, because it really is great. So
I love it.
How's that working for you? And it's humorous because when you do and you think about it from that perspective, it's like, yeah, not so good. And yet, okay, and I talk a lot about borrowing confidence, borrowing courage, and borrowing strength. When we're looking at replacing or creating a habit or creating a pattern of behavior, a pathway to something that's better, we may not be strong enough yet on our own. And we do not have to be, as females, as entrepreneurs, however you want to classify it. When we reach out to each other and say, I am working on this, and I appreciate you being another set of eyes and ears and another heart to support me in this, that's where women can raise each other up so quickly. We can hold each other accountable. We can invite people into the consideration of an alternative perspective. And when they say something and we can tell that they're not at choice, we can say, do you really feel like you were at choice with what you just said? And if you were at choice, what would you say or what would you do?
Beautifully said.
Thank you.
Our conversations are always beautiful. I love that.
I love you.
If our listeners want to get a hold of you, how can they do so?
My email address is sue@sueryan.solutions, and my website is sueryan.solutions. They can go to my website and get a message to me and get on my calendar. And I am grateful for the opportunity to speak or coach or listen or whatever I can do to help people. That's my passion.
And I can say that firsthand. I know it's your passion. You're a phenomenal individual.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And thank you, my friends, for joining me today and every week here on The Confident Entrepreneur, brought to you by True Fashionistas. If you want to take your business to the next level, check out my website, jenniferannjohnson.com, to sign up for my emails or connect with me. Have a fabulous day.